Hello, I'm continuing and concluding my reviews on the Hammer Dracula series with The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Now, this is the 9th and final film of Hammer's Dracula series, and it came out in 1974. Now, I have Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires on this DVD set where it comes with Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and Frankenstein Created Woman. Now, The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires is a cross between a horror film and a martial arts film. The film was a joint production between Hammer and Shaw Brothers, which for a time I think were the biggest film studio in Hong Kong, primarily known in the West for their martial arts pictures. Now, I know some people don't really count this as part of the Hammer Dracula series, because compared to the other films in this series, this one is relatively standalone, but it does have Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. This time, Christopher Lee does not play Dracula. I know Shaw Brothers wanted Christopher Lee, but at this point Lee was completely sick of the character, and I think he refused to come back. So in the film, Dracula is played by John Forbes-Robinson, and it's hard to say if he's really good or not, because I know he's dubbed throughout most of the movie, and apparently he was pissed that he ended up getting dubbed. But even just Dracula's look in the movie, like the makeup for him, he looks goofy as hell, and also throughout most of the movie, Dracula is taking on the form of somebody else, so technically Dracula's played by two people in the movie. Now, this movie, from what I understand, had a really troubled production. It was made entirely in Hong Kong, and they had both a British crew and an Asian crew, and from what I understand, there was a real language barrier between the two crews. And there's rumors that there was some discrimination on the set on the part of the British crew against the Asian crew. But the plot of the movie is it follows Van Helsing. It's hard to say if this movie really has any continuity with any of the previous Hammer films, but you know that in this movie's timeline, Van Helsing has battled Count Dracula before. But in the movie, Van Helsing and his son, he has a son in this movie, are in China, and he's given this lecture on vampire legends at this Chinese university. And he talks about this one legend about a farmer whose village is terrorized by what are known as the Seven Golden Vampires, and Van Helsing believes that the legend is true. But Van Helsing is approached by this young student named Chang. I'm probably not saying his name right. Keep in mind there are a lot of Asian characters in this movie that I'm sure I'm gonna butcher their names. But he claims that his grandfather was the farmer from that legend. And he claims that the village is still being terrorized by the Golden Vampires. Now, Chang and his siblings are all experts in martial arts. So, Van Helsing and these siblings, along with Van Helsing's son and this young widow, go on a journey looking for this village, but unbeknownst to Van Helsing, his old enemy, Count Dracula, is now the leader of the Golden Vampires. But the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires is, at least technically speaking, probably the worst of the Hammer Dracula series, but it is a fun movie. It's a very fun and very cheesy movie. And I do applaud Hammer for at least trying to do something different, because at this point the Hammer Dracula series was starting to become very samey. And there are zombies in this film, and I have to say that there's actually something kinda creepy about the zombies in this movie. And in the movie, they do hint at a romance between Chang and this young widow, and they also hint at a romance between Van Helsing's son and the one sister out of this group of siblings. And I appreciated that they tried to go for an interracial romance. Unfortunately, they don't really have a whole lot of chemistry with each other, and that might have something to do with the language barrier between the actors. And another thing that I appreciated about this is certain characters die in this movie who I was not expecting to die, so it actually was kind of a shock when some of these characters actually did end up getting killed off. But The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, it's a deeply flawed movie, but it is a fun movie, and if you're looking for a cheesy good time, then check it out. Now, I'll admit, I'm not as well versed in martial arts films as a lot of other people are, so if I was, I probably would have appreciated this movie a little bit more. But I do recommend it. But that was my review on The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, and that concludes my series of reviews on the Hammer Dracula series. My next movie review for Horror Month will be a film that I actually already reviewed in the past, but I wanted to re-review it, and that is the 1982 horror classic Creepshow. So stay tuned for that review, and bye.